What's up, travelers? In today's video, we're talking about the airlines I refuse to fly. Now, these airlines are in three categories. First, we have comfort, which is, I guess, the obvious one. Second, we have political, which will be interesting. And last but not least, we have safety, which is also a big one. So we have a very broad video today. So before we get into that, I wanted to take a second for a much needed life update. Now, many of you guys know that I've been attending university for the past 2 years. I just finished my sophomore year, and honestly, I've loved it. I'm a sucker for school. I've always had an easy time hammering stuff into my brain. So I have had a lot of fun in university, just getting to live in San Francisco, Seoul, Hyderabad. All these really cool places has been quite a life-changing experience, especially living in Korea, which put a lot of things in perspective for me, and I think will really change how I shape my future and what I look for when I choose where to live going forward. So long story short, it was a tough ass 4 months. But behind the scenes, I've had to deal with a lot of frustration, in small part because of the school itself, but on a larger scale, I've just been questioning what I've been doing at school, if that's the path I want to take. And basically, I've started questioning the direction school has me going in and whether I want to spend my precious time in my youth. I know that's when you spend your time at university, but I'm into questioning everything. So I've been questioning whether I want to spend my time and my hard-earned money, $30,000 a year, on this. So, drumroll, I decided to take a break, and to start with, it's going to be a year's break from university. It could be 2 years. Odds are it might be an eternal break. We never know. But it actually feels really good. I have so many exciting plans for the future to share with you guys very soon. So yeah, that's the life update. So first, I have a little disclaimer before we get into the video. As you guys know, I'm a picky little nugget, and this is just my personal list. I'm not saying that you guys shouldn't fly with these airlines. I'm not even saying that it's like 100% I would never fly these airlines. This is just generally the airlines that I refuse to fly. But I refuse a lot of things, like doing something that people tell me I have to do. If you tell me I have to do something, I will find any way I can to get out of that. For example, going for a run. Not gonna happen. So let's start a little softly, or should I say not so softly, with the airlines I wouldn't fly for comfort reasons. So generally I'm not too picky with airlines because I know I can survive a short flight. I don't think most people would choose to fly Ryanair on a 6-hour flight, but if there's an option for an extra legroom seat or something, I'm generally fine. But let's start in Asia, because there's two airlines that I generally would avoid like the plague in economy class, and that would be AirAsia on their A330s and Scoot on their 787s. So both of these airlines, long-haul aircraft, are just so uncomfortable. There's no in-flight entertainment. They squeeze in the seats like crazy. AirAsia even has one extra seat per row, which really isn't meant to be there on the A330. So you can imagine how slim those seats are. On their A320s, it's not a big deal. It's just these long-haul aircraft that I would refuse to fly. Now further west, we have a similar situation with Air Arabia and Pegasus. Both of these airlines are based in or around the Middle East, and I would also avoid these because they usually serve very long flights. So if you want to go from Stockholm to Doha, you can fly Pegasus via Istanbul, but to me, that doesn't sound like a fun time. However, the number one airline I refuse to fly for comfort reasons is based right here in Europe, and it's Vueling. I took 4 flights with them, 4 in 2016, before I learned my lesson. And firstly, every single flight I took was delayed, and not just a little delayed. I had one flight from Nice to Barcelona that ended up departing at 3 a.m. But that wasn't even the worst part. I just found their legroom to be insanely limited. I just don't fit in Vueling planes. The same thing kind of goes for Iberia Express, so I avoid them. But since Vueling is so big, I just don't care how good the fare is.
I refuse to fly Vueling.
Now when it comes to Ryanair and EasyJet, I have a bit of a twisted relationship with them. So after my dad left my mom and moved back to where he's from in the US, my mom took me and my brother to live in her childhood hometown outside Gothenburg, Sweden. The only international trip we could afford was a once annual trip to the UK to visit our friends. And this was before Norwegian started flying from Gothenburg to Gatwick, so We would go with Ryanair every single year, fly to Stansted, and then from there have to work our way down to East Sussex, which is a long way. So basically, Ryanair was what I knew, and I actually really liked them. As a kid, I thought it was so fun to get to board via stairs. I loved the colorful cabins. So even though nowadays I don't jump at the opportunity to fly Ryanair, I don't avoid them like the plague unless I need assurance that I'll be at my destination on time. Because if you're flying a low-cost carrier and something goes wrong, if there's delays, if you for some reason miss your flight, you're screwed. There's no protection whatsoever. You won't get rebooked. Unfortunately, Oscar had to learn the hard way that airlines are completely savage with their timeliness and don't offer anything if you fuck up. So Oscar learned that you need to be timely when flying low-cost carriers the hard way. What happened?
So I was sitting at the gate reading, and all of a sudden I looked up towards the gate and I saw it was already past departure time.
So you called me in a panic, being like, help! What do I do when this happens on Ryanair?
May or may not have done that.
And there's not much you can do except keep track of time. And there's no better way to do that than with today's video sponsor, Vincero. So Vincero is like a Singapore Airlines that charges Ryanair prices. And they do it by cutting out any middlemen so they can sell us luxury watches for 1/10 of the price. Not only do they offer the best value in the industry,
but they also take quality very seriously.
Their watches have 16,000 5-star reviews to attest to the quality, and you're bound to get noticed walking around with these beauties on the street.
The flight attendants will be like,
girl, what's he doing flying Ryanair with a watch like that? So we both have Caro's mesh watches, which are perfect for summer because they're breathable and super comfortable. So you guys, it's time to elevate your wrist game. Check out Vincero at the top of the description below. They currently have free shipping worldwide, wherever you live, whether you're on the North Pole, the South Pole, or anywhere in between. And don't forget to use code NONSTOPDAN for 15% off at checkout. So on that note, let me just set my watch back to 1920, which seems to be the local time in Alabama. Luckily, no airlines are based in Alabama, so we don't have to worry about that. But there are unfortunately many other places that don't seem to understand that it's 2019 and their human rights need to catch up. So we've moved on to the political/ethical part, and here there are really only 2 airlines that I would absolutely avoid. And I know this is a very controversial topic because it's very murky waters, which airlines come from countries that you would support or wouldn't support. So personally, the 2 airlines I refuse to fly for political or ethical reasons are Royal Brunei and Saudi. Because here's the thing, it's one thing to have ancient laws that haven't caught up with humanity and human rights, but it's another thing to still practice them. So yes, the UAE has really strict laws against homosexuality, for example, where you could potentially get the death penalty. But based on the information I could find, they haven't enforced it in years. Qatar and Oman have much more lenient punishments for homosexuality, but there again, I can't find any cases where it's actually been enforced for a long time. So that to me is how I draw the line between the airlines I want to fly and I don't want to fly. If you're still practicing these laws in 2019 and you're punishing many people in a brutal way, or if you're introducing laws like this in 2019, I just don't feel comfortable supporting that. But now you know the 2 that I would generally avoid. So lastly, safety, and this one is subjective for the most part. So as you know, air travel is extremely safe, and if I'm ever in doubt on a plane, I just try to remember if I was in my house or in bed right now, I'd be more in danger than I am on a plane. Still, there are a few airlines I don't feel comfortable flying, and it's actually only the first airline on this list that I strongly discourage you from flying, and that is Allegiant.
Do you think that the flying public has any idea about the safety culture of Allegiant?
No.
Now here's the thing, there has been so much shit on Allegiant in the media that I'm honestly shocked that anyone still flies them. If you're interested, there's a full 60 minutes episode on the airline and why their safety is so bad. I'll link it in the description below. Just as an example, Allegiant pilots are discouraged or even punished for reporting maintenance issues to the airline. And Allegiant pilots and crews have even said that they would not feel comfortable booking their families on an Allegiant flight. So neither will I. So the last airlines in this category are airlines that are unsafe more because of the country they're based in rather than the airline itself. Mainly Iranian airlines come to mind here because of the strict sanctions against Iran that has prevented them from not only buying new planes but even buying spare parts so that they can do proper maintenance, which is just such a horrible way to punish the entire people. So examples would be Ryanair, Mahan Air. Personally, I wouldn't feel comfortable flying them. And there are multiple other countries where I feel similar uneasiness. Most of it is definitely made up in my head. But examples of other airlines that I would not fly unless I was forced to would be, for example, Libyan Air and maybe Egypt Air. It depends on the route, but I'm a little bit paranoid when it comes to this stuff. Now, the juicy question: what about plane types? Well, when it comes to plane types, I'm very comfortable flying Airbus, Bombardier, Embraer, and mostly Boeing. I wouldn't fly the 737 MAX, and we'll see what happens when it gets reintroduced. I've had a lot of questions about that, and maybe I'll make a whole separate video. But for now, all I'll say is I've really lost some trust for Boeing and the FAA through this whole process. So again, this was just my personal list. I'm sure there are a bunch of other airlines out there that I wouldn't feel comfortable flying. But more than anything, I hope this video just helped you guys think about how I categorize airlines in my head, how you can maybe go about making your own list of airlines that you would avoid for different reasons. And I'd love to hear in the comments below if there's any airlines that you don't fly and what the reason is. So once again, I want to thank Vincero for sponsoring this video. As you guys know, my sponsors help me continue to make the most unbiased videos out there. Now, if you want me to step foot on one of these airlines that I refuse to fly, I might do it with one of them if this video gets 5,000 thumbs up. Now, I know that's a lot, but if you hit the thumbs up button, you're helping me out and you're helping me fly an airline I refuse to fly, so thanks for that. Also, you can subscribe for much more evidence-based content in the future, but I hope you guys still got something out of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and until I see you all next time, fly safe.